Estamos en vivo, ¿qué tal amigos? Bienvenidos a su canal de Twitch, un enlace más en vivo el día de hoy a través de Orquídeas y Planta, esta plataforma que nos permite trabajar o realizar pues los enlaces sin ninguna incomodidad. Me dan un minutito, tengo que corroborar que ya nos encontramos en vivo para estar más tranquilo y así poder avanzar sin ningún inconveniente. Perfecto, estamos en vivo y voy a bajar el volumen por acá para que no se nos cruce. Y listo, espero ver algún comentario que exista por ahí. Y nada, agradecerles a las personas que se han conectado, a las personas que luego lo van a ver en la retransmisión que aparece en Twitch, asimismo a las personas que ya tal vez lo verán en su momento a través del canal de YouTube en la sección de miembros del canal propiamente dicho. Ok, el día de hoy tengo dos videos, ok, lo vamos a hacer por partes, como siempre lo hacemos, ¿no? Ok, esta primera parte voy a compartir un video que me pareció muy interesante. ¿Ok? De nuestra, ya en algún momento hemos reaccionado a sus videos, me parecen muy buenos, en realidad muy contenido muy interesante de Summer Rainey, eh, que se encuentra pues al otro lado del mundo, pero vamos a ver este primer video acerca de las plantas carnívoras y Nepenthes. Justo un amigo del colegio, pues quien da la coincidencia que es un coleccionista de plantas para ella, ¿ok? Y en la segunda parte, pues encontré un video, me parece súper también a la vez interesante, que lleva título de 28 consejos esenciales para comenzar el huerto en balcón, ¿ok? Ya lo vamos a estar viendo, lo voy a dividir, o sea, voy a hacer una transmisión exclusiva para esta parte, que es las plantas carnívoras, y luego lo voy a hacer respectivamente para el tema de los consejos, ¿ya? No por uno, parte por parte, para no andar complicándonos la vida ni nada por el estilo, ¿ok? Bien, denme un minuto, estamos con OBS sin ningún inconveniente, estamos con Twitch. Quiero dejar por acá en algún lado el... Denme un segundo. Quiero dejar en algún lado más o menos para poder apreciar si en caso existe algún comentario por ahí. Bueno amigos, ok, estamos bien, espero que se encuentren dentro de todo sin novedades y vamos a dar pues inicio a al stream del día de hoy. Bien, como siempre pues plantas carnívoras independientes, plan on me, ok, episodio número 46 de Summer Rainy Oakes, sorry, no sé cómo se dice, voy a estar atento en ese sentido, ok. Es un video que fue subido el 28 de diciembre del 2017, ya lleva bastante tiempito, tiene 68.410 vistas. ¿Ok? Summer ya tiene más de medio millón de suscriptores, recién vamos 29.000 en el canal en YouTube, espero seguir creciendo poco a poco. ¿Ok? Y como siempre, pues nuestra manera de agradecer al creador de contenido es con un like. ¿Ya? Ya estamos, como ustedes ven, yo es más, estoy hasta suscrito a su canal, regularmente veo uno que otro video, me parecen muy interesantes el método la manera como lo enfoca, sobre todo eso, ¿ya? Así que bien, vamos a conversar, básicamente es un diálogo que tiene con un cultivador de por allá, pero voy a rescatar algunas cositas que ya lo vamos a ir viendo a lo largo del video. Bien amigos, creo que sin más que decir, pues arrancamos. Espero esté todo el sonido muy bien.
I think one of the newest hybrids that has the longest name is Rocco-Boschiana veitchii cross.
Ok, ya, empezamos fuerte aquí. Empezamos fuerte. Al decir Nepenthes por Rocco Bosniana, por Viceni, bueno, no me deja ver el subtítulo, pero ya de por sí estamos hablando de un híbrido pues que ha sido cruzado, pero cantidad de veces, ¿no? Al parecer es una planta joven, pero los cruces son antiguos. De repente Rocco, Rocco ya, cuando ven ustedes esas dos de acá, estos palillos, ya esas comillas, ya es un híbrido. Es decir, este tiene también otros dos cruces por lo menos. Es decir, aquí estamos hablando de una planta que es 1, 2, 3, 4. De acá no logro ver bien. Vamos a quitar el subtítulo. Ya, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Otra vez Rocco. Es un cruce, pero que por lo menos debe tener unos 6, 7 años, ¿no? No, más. Estoy hablando piedras, estoy hablando más, porque demoran igual en general.
Rocco Boschiana, Cross Rocco Fusca Spectabulis Tresmariensis. That's a lot of stuff.
That is a lot of stuff, and you wouldn't be able to say that 10 times fast because you wouldn't even be able to remember it.
Eso es cierto, ¿ah? Ah, ya, ya. Para las personas que no saben, vamos a...
Remember it.
Ya. Esta es una inflorescencia macho, ¿ok? Las nepentes pues tienen macho y hembra, para los que no saben, ¿ok? Son dos, se separa por los géneros, pero en este caso lo que estamos viendo es una inflorescencia macho. Los gránulos de polen pues son estos los que ustedes están viendo acá. Todos estos. Bien, sigamos. Qué bonita colección,
So
¿ah?
Dominic, describe a little bit where we are here in Brooklyn.
We are in my backyard.
Brooklyn. Estamos... Ay, Dios mío. Backyard, patio trasero.
This is my nursery, Red Leaf Exotics. I collect and grow carnivorous plants called Nepenthes. And yeah, this is my paradise and my favorite place on earth.
Ok, es un patio trasero muy amplio en realidad y como bien menciona el joven, pues tiene su colección de plantas carnívoras específicamente del género Nepenthes.
And I'm glad I'm getting a chance to see you here because it sounds like you're going to move your Nepenthes to warmer climates soon.
Yes, I plan on moving to Tennessee. My business has expanded a lot faster than I thought, and the plants have outgrown the space, so I need a sunnier, warmer, more, just a better environment for the plants.
So for people who don't know what Nepenthes are, or maybe have only seen like one little species in their store, what is Nepenthes?
So Nepenthes are carnivorous plants that come from Indonesia. They have evolved these modified leaves that capture insects and digest them, and they kind of look like a beautiful hand-painted vase. Yeah.
Es interesante la cantidad de formas y variables que puede generarse. En lo personal, ok, en lo personal, yo considero la planta carnívora Nepenthes pues una de las mejores para cuando uno desea iniciar el cultivo, para cuando tú quieres trabajarla. Es una planta muy resistente. No se imaginan cuán resistente es que puede ser cultivada en departamentos sin ningún problema. Es más, o sea, acá no les puedo mostrar, pero acá tengo Nepenthes en un departamento. ¿Ok? Y en donde pues las plantas están tranquilas, o sea, con agua de caño, ni siquiera agua destilada y agua hervida, no agua de caño para que sean fuertes. Así que sí, sí, es una
They're
planta que me
just
parece interesante.
spectacular.
You used to be an orchid guy before your Nepenthes,
collector, yes.
but you got rid of many of your orchids.
Completely did away, kind of, with them. They'll always have be an addiction, but when I was a little kid, I saw Venus flytraps. This was when I was collecting orchids around 13. And amongst them was a little Nepenthes plant, and it looked different, so I brought it home. I always Googled everything that I brought home, and when I Googled Nepenthes,
Ah, Pepe. ¿Se han dado cuenta quién está ahí? Yo sí estoy seguro que por lo menos más de una persona se ha dado cuenta qué especie vegetal se encuentra en la parte de al fondo. ¿Ok? Y no lo digo en mala fe, lo digo en buena onda. Si se han dado cuenta, hay un Fragmipedium BC en la parte de acá. Esta de acá. Es un Fragmipedium BC. ¿Cómo ha llegado allá? Pues bueno, existe el tema del comercio legal.
and saw the array of varieties and stuff, orchids started disappearing, and I just started ordering more and more of them, and I've been addicted ever since, around 13 years old.
People have been for a couple centuries now fascinated with the idea of a carnivorous plant, like something that could actually physically eat an invertebrate or even a vertebrate in some cases. I've heard. What else about Nepenthes that makes it like really like stunning?
I mean, there's just
I mean, pienso. Ok, en mi caso diría pues que la planta carnívora Nepenthes, bueno, no es que pienso, no, en realidad es la Nepenthes, el género Nepenthes es la planta carnívora, género de la planta carnívora más grande que existe. Ustedes recuerden la Nepenthes raja, que es la que tiene un volumen de aproximadamente 4, más o menos 4 litros, un poquito más, un poquito menos, que ya la hace de por sí la planta carnívora más grande. Así que, sí, sí.
You'll see there's just nothing that
La
really
variedad,
looks
sí.
like them, or even as far as how highly evolved they are compared to other carnivorous plants. There's just nothing that I've ever seen or come in contact with in my life that compares to a Nepenthes plant. Everything from the size of the traps, the colors, how big they get, the enzymes they produce. There's so many things that just endless fascination with them.
And you mentioned that it's a modified leaves, which is
Yes.
really phenomenal because here it is like this leaf that's attracting, trapping, and literally, eating.
Esto es bien bonito. Ok, estas formas que tienen las Nepenthes. Ok, eso es algo que también se hace bien, bien bacán. Bien bacán. Ok, que se genera pues de por sí cuando hablamos de las orquídeas, perdón, de las plantas carnívoras propiamente dicho. Una inmensa variedad. Cuando uno realiza el cruce, ustedes han escuchado ahí el cruce que tiene una de sus tantas plantas carnívoras, que son como 6 7 cruces, ¿ok? Que lo hacen súper especial y a la vez, pues,
Some
complicada.
type of
Complicada.
animal or insect or whatever it
No es
might be.
difícil de hacer, por si acaso híbridos en plantas carnívoras. No crean que es un trabajo solo de especialista. Puede ser muy sencillo. En realidad sí.
I know you've
El detalle, eso sí, hay que tener las plantas maduras y poder saber cuál es hembra y macho.
gone to see some of these things in the wild. I'd love to hear where you've gone in the wild, how these things evolved, and why they may have evolved that way.
So I traveled to the island of Borneo in Indonesia to see them, and I went to two specific mountain ranges, Mount Tresmati and Mount Kinabalu, and that's two of the most highly populated areas for the plants. And these plants just grow all over the tops, but still very rare compared to most plants as it's only two mountain ranges. And they've evolved to lure and capture insects because the soils they grow in are so poor in nutrients that they've kind of outsmarted other plants and they found other ways to get the nutrients that they need.
What are some of the evolutionary structures of these plants? Because I know that there's some dimorphism that happens, there's like fragrance that happens. Like what's the kind of range? And when we go into your greenhouse, maybe you could kind of point out some of the interesting structures as well.
Well, some of the plants produce what are called lower pitchers, which are more bulky and heavy, and they catch things like anywhere from ants, termites, to larger things like mammals, small mice. And then the upper pitchers that grow up into the trees, they're more delicate, lighter in color, and they produce a tendril that wraps around and secures the plant. They even can produce different fragrances from pitcher to pitcher because the prey up in the trees are different than what's on the ground. I mean, they have to have some kind of mind of their own. It really is fascinating.
There is one also that you showed me when we were with Mick the other day that acts as like a little bit like a toilet bowl.
So that is Nepenthes lowii, which I'll show you, and it has evolved this symbiotic relationship with a mouse-like creature called a shrew, and almost 100% of the nutrients this plant intakes is from the shrew, and the exudate, which is a sugary substance under the lid that it eats, has a laxative in it, and it causes the shrew to poop or defecate in the pitcher, and it will absorb the nutrients, and it's amazing that the plant.
Claro, es una de las tantas evoluciones que tiene pues esta planta carnívora, puntualmente de la Nepenthes low que nos mencionan, ¿no? Que es un inodoro, pues, que es increíble lo que se puede generar en la naturaleza, prácticamente de la adaptación de por sí, ¿no? Que ellas tienen, que ellas han logrado, que ellas han podido generar, como bien se menciona, pues, en un ambiente con muy pocos nutrientes, un suelo muy bajo de nutrientes, pues, ¿cuál es la manera, pues, de captar? ¿No? Pasas, conseguir por aquí, por aquí, por allá, y se las ingeniaron muy bien, ¿no? Se las ingeniaron muy bien.
Plant realizes that that creature is around, and they've evolved together over millions of years.
I mean, that just goes to show you that, like, when you remove something from the ecosystem, how it could be detriment to another piece within the ecosystem. Especially, which brings me to the question, because I know you had posted this the other day in regards to habitat destruction. And can you give me an idea, because you had mentioned a lot of these are concentrated in Indonesia, can you just give me an idea of some of the pressures that Nepenthes are facing in the wild?
One of the biggest things that is going on with Nepenthes and their habitat now is palm oil plantations. When I visited, I mean, you can drive hours and there's nothing but palm oil plantations, and it's really sad. So deforestation is definitely number one. I'd say the second in line is probably climate change. Because some of them come from such high altitudes, the winds are becoming a little more dry, the humidity is going low, and these plants need that moisture to survive. So climate change is a huge one. And then another big one is actually wild collection. As the hobby grows and people get hungrier for the plants, you know, these people that live in these small countries and stuff, their way of making money is to come and offer plants for cheap and illegally ship them. I've been offered many illegal plants, and it's sad. But yeah, those are probably the three biggest things that affect the plants in the wild.
And as a collector,
Claro, es muy cierto, ¿no? Definitivamente el tema de la deforestación es algo muy clásico, muy desagradable, sí, pero es una realidad al fin y al cabo, ¿no? Lo mismo sucede, por ejemplo, en el tema de las orquídeas. Ya en algunos días, probablemente cuando publique este video en el canal, pues, de YouTube, eh, ya han salido, ya se han dado a conocer una nueva orquídea, por ejemplo, les voy adelantando, ¿no? A las personas que tal vez vean esto antes de pasado mañana. Antes de el domingo, creo que lanzo el video, no me falla la memoria. Una nueva orquídea en donde pues básicamente el principal talón de Aquiles es el tema de la deforestación, que no le permite desarrollarse más allá, ¿no? Así que, en fin, es muy cierto. Aquí lo que menciona pues el tema de la deforestación, el cambio climático y cómo la depredación, pues la venta de estas plantas de manera ilegal, pues es muy común. Sí. Hoy por hoy en Perú lo podemos hacer como si nada, porque el manejo in vitro es, pero facilísimo, facilísimo.
what do you think your role is in kind of thinking about like, oh, should I take this plant or not? Like, say it was like the last species of its kind, and I know botanical gardens deal with this too, because they're like, well, should I turn it away or should I take it? Because at least if we take it, we might have the ability to be able to grow and grow ex situ outside of its own country and habitat. But what role do collectors as well as growers play in this?
It's a very intricate puzzle, but I'd say one of the biggest things that's going on with a lot of plants today is tissue culture, you know, cloning and multiplying these plants in large quantities so people
Exacto.
don't have to get them from the wild. Seed-grown plants are amazing. There are a lot of people that still collect wild seed, and honestly, I think it's a lot better than going and ripping these plants that are thousands of years old out of the wild and disturbing them. For me, I like to just share my passion, and a lot of people love the species, but I like to get people involved with the hybrids and maybe take the pressure off the species in the wild. So there are a few natural hybrids, but the thing with the Nepenthes is they're either a male or a female. So the chances of getting both in bloom at the same time is a little tough. So definitely a lot more slow in reproducing than other plants.
That's another, point that you make on the conservation front, that if you have like a population of say like 50 and all of a sudden you remove some plants without knowing it's a male or female, you might end up with all just males left, and then that would be the death knell for that species too.
Yes.
So how many species in general do you know? Has there been a count so far?
Yes, so tiny backstory. When I started, there were about 70 or 80 species known, and now there are around 171 and a few around there that aren't described.
Vamos a retroceder. Acá vi algo que me pareció interesante. Aquí vi una colección. Aquí se nota qué especies tienen, ¿no? Algunas dróseras por aquí, dróseras por allá, vignatas. ¿Qué más tiene? Cephalotus, heliánforas. Por aquí más Nepenthes, etcétera, etcétera, ¿no?
Are
Interesante la
around
colección.
171 and a few around there that aren't described. And every year, I mean, even this year alone, they found a new species that's undescribed. So it's really amazing to see that there's this terrain of things that we still don't know about. So all the more reason to protect it.
And you mentioned some of them up on mountain ranges as well. So I'm assuming there's a lot of places that people haven't gotten to yet, and maybe
Eso es
sometimes
cierto.
those mountains are what protect them from.
Claro, es cierto. De todas maneras, es que el mundo es tan amplio. Esos lugares donde están esas plantas son tan, pero tan ricos en cuanto a flora y fauna que pues hay muchas todavía por descubrir. Y no sería pues novedad que pase eso, ¿no? Así que sí, genial, genial, genial. Muy interesante cómo lo está explicando el joven.
human hands.
Yeah, especially one of the bigger places that they're finding more is actually New Guinea. And if you've ever seen some of the mountains there, they're just like sheer razor blades coming up, almost impossible to get into. But that's where a lot of the latest discoveries are happening.
Wow. And what other places, I mean, New Guinea is pretty close to Indonesia itself, but like what are some of the other places that have Nepenthes kind of shown up?
The northern tip of Australia, the Philippines, Sumatra, Singapore. You can go over to Madagascar. Where else? All in the Indonesia and outerlying areas around
fantastic. When you bring your Nepenthes in, are you getting them from other fellow growers, or how are you kind of acquiring your Nepenthes without giving your secret sauce away?
there. So I always love this story. My friends and the best Nepenthes nursery in the world, Exotica Plants in Australia, they are at the leading edge of hybridization, if you will. They've just created so many fancy hybrids that it's just taken Nepenthes in the world to a new level. And I get all of my plants from them. I'm a Pisces, they're Pisces, and I like to think that it's a little magical Pisces family, but I get all my plants from them. I import them from Australia.
How long does it take to, in general?
Es que claro, es eso. El secreto a veces, como lo conversé en algún momento en un video en YouTube, de eso se trata, ¿no? El generar los híbridos para distraer de las especies como tal. Es una muy buena técnica, una muy buena estrategia acá, una estrategia de conservación de plantas en general, ya sea para orquídeas, en este caso lo está mencionando para Nepenthes, ¿no? Para que no estés buscando ahí como loco la especie ahí en
To
hábitat.
grow from a Nepenthes from seed to a place that you could actually sell it.
So when I pollinate the plants, that usually takes around 6 months to get the seed. And then you plant the seed, and that can take anywhere from 2 to 3 years to get something that's sellable.
Wow.
I like to get my plants a little larger, so maybe even a little longer.
Oh wow, that is a commitment right there.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
I like to do cuttings and separate basil shoots off the bottom. That's a lot quicker, but they don't produce them every day, so still slow.
And what are some of your maybe like top 3 to 5 favorites? And I know you have to choose between like favorite
know
children.
my tops. It's good we're saying it out here and not in there.
Okay, good. They can't hear.
My number one favorite species, and it's my company logo, is Nepenthes veitchii, and I'll show you a few of those when we go inside. My favorite man-made hybrid from my friends in Australia is Lowii cross truncata giant, which you'll see in there, amazing and gigantic. And then the names just get crazier. One of my top favorite hybrids is Rocco fusca spectabilis trisomatiensis. Love very.
Es bien bacán esa la generación, ustedes se dan cuenta. Es que estos son híbridos. Ya cuando hablamos de híbridos es cuando mezclas una especie con otra y la otra y la otra y haces todo un mar de posibilidades, ¿no? Es bien bonito esa parte, ¿no? Cuando hablamos de híbridos y todo ese tema, ¿no? Simpático ese mundillo.
And then the names just get crazier. One of my top favorite hybrids is Rocco fusca spectabilis trisomatiensis. Love rambling the names.
I love when you ramble them.
Another beautiful one I'll show you is Truncata veitchii maxima spectabilis. Those are probably the top 4 or 5. Love those plants.
You make people want to speak Latin.
Thanks. Me and my friends sometimes like to go around the greenhouse, and the game is like, what's this? What's this? What this? And they just get a kick out of all the names that come out of my mouth.
Everyone always complains like, oh, my Nepenthes, I don't know how to take care of it. The pitchers fall off. And I notice you have all of yours in a greenhouse, not indoors. So can you give people some tips about growing Nepenthes in their home?
Yes, I actually grew indoors for many years, and there's just a couple things like a pet that if you provide, they'll be so rewarding. Number one is humidity. These plants come from such humid environments. Even a humidifier, if you can get one at your local pharmacy, they love that. And bright light. A lot of people want to grow them in windows, and depending on where you live, that can work. But I always suggest a grow light, T5 being the best. So indoors, you can feed them maybe once a week or more, like put a cricket or something inside the pitchers. A common practice that some indoor growers do is fish pellets. They seem to work really well for the plants.
Do people ever throw?
Lo que pasa es que una de las opciones que tiene, y eso también ya lo conversé en algún momento, Cuando son interiores, son casas, pues se hace difícil cultivar muchas veces estas plantas, casi imposible inclusive diría yo. Pero sin embargo, con algunas técnicas, algunos truquitos, pues se puede lograr, ¿no? Como bien menciona aquí, el hecho de la alimentación es algo tan importante, tan necesario en este caso en las nepentes, pues que tienes que estar súper atento a ella, ¿no? Que se me había enredado un poquito los cables que están abajo. Se hace interesante, se hace... Luego lo que menciona el tema de la comida de los pescados, es algo que es muy común también. Esa comida que se vende para los acuarios, esa también es
Throw in
válido.
like bits of meat or anything?
People like to think that that's a good idea, but it's actually not good because the meat is not alive and living with bacteria and stuff in it. It actually causes more harm than good, and you'll probably notice your pitchers will start to rot or decay. So live food only unless it's like fish pellets.
Word to the wise that that's the stuff that we eat.
Exactly.
If your pitcher doesn't like it.
Exactly, seriously.
And I can't wait to go in there yet again to see some of your Nepenthes and to share your knowledge and passion to this great community. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's actually kind of a dream that you're here doing this because I follow you, and really excited that you're here doing this with me.
Be sure to stay tuned next week because we'll be getting a full tour of the wild world of Nepenthes with Dominic from Red Leaf Exotics. If you're loving what you're seeing every week, then be sure to subscribe to the channel and follow
hay
along
un
on
video, es
Instagram
una
at
segunda
Homestead
parte
Brooklyn
que vamos
and at
a verlo. Ok, vamos a
homesteadbrooklyn.com.
pasar a verlo.
See you next time.
Creo que hoy día vamos a hacer el videito un poquito largo, ¿no? Así que vamos a reproducir el... Vamos a seguir viendo a ver
This
qué nos
is
encontramos.
probably one of the holy grail of all Nepenthes.
Vamos a seguir viendo, vamos a seguir viendo. Yo pensaba cortarla acá, pero vamos a seguir viendo. No hay problema en ese sentido. Ok, sé que hay espectadores, sé que hay personas que me están viendo, que luego lo van a ver. Así que no hay problema. Vamos a traducirlo para que todos podamos entender. ¿Ya? ¿Dónde está? Español. No, esloveno no, me equivoqué. Creo que ni un esloveno nos va a poder leer con calma. Nos ve, mejor dicho. Esperando español. Ok. Bien, sigamos viendo, ¿no? Nuevamente, como siempre, antes que nos lo olvidemos, pues, damos nuestro agradecimiento a Summer. Ya va 1653 y un 45.935 vistas de este video. Este fue subido el 4 de enero del 2018. Capítulo 047.
This is probably one of the holy grail of all Nepenthes.
Tiempos otomanos. Sí, iguana.
This is phenomenal. It's so well organized as well. Like
Thank
it's
you.
packed tight, but it's organized.
Yes, I like organization.
El orden es brutal. Hay que tener, como se dice, cierto tino para tener ordenadas las cosas, las plantitas y todo lo demás, ¿no? Como para que puedas... En este caso es un comerciante, es un comercializador, pero a la vez también le gusta estas cosas. Así que bienvenido sea, bienvenido sea.
And
I could tell. And they probably love to be kind of a little bit more shoulder to shoulder, so to speak, because it actually helps build up the humidity. And I mean,
Sí.
it definitely feels like a balmy 70 in here at least.
yeah,
Tener un invernadero con alta humedad es una posibilidad que, bueno, por lo menos hoy por hoy aquí en muchas ciudades, tomo el ejemplo de Lima, el lugar donde me encuentro actualmente, que pasar pues de campo, que ustedes ya saben, o por lo menos las personas que siguen el canal de YouTube saben que he estado mucho tiempo en campo y que pasar a este ritmo de ciudad pues se hace un poco de choque. No puedes tener tanto espacio como para cultivar, pero te las puedes ingeniar. Ya, ok, en el canal yo estoy lanzando poco a poco algunos videos relacionados a cómo cultivar las orquídeas en casa. Justo ahorita las tengo acá al frente. Cómo cultivar las nepenthes, que es lo que tengo aquí en la mano. Ya voy a comenzar a cultivar las dróseras, pero se puede hacer, señores. No hay pretexto.
it's around 75 degrees and maybe about 80-90% humidity.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I guess, word to the wise for anybody who's actually growing these in your home, very rare that you're going to get up to 80% humidity in your home.
Sí, exacto.
You said that this one is low EI?
Yep, this is Nepenthes lowii. It's found on just a couple mountain ranges in Indonesia, on the island of Borneo, and you could see this white sugary substance. This is the exudate, and that is what the shrew eats and causes it to poop into the toilet or the pitcher.
So what do you feed this one then?
So this just gets love, and sometimes I fertilize with the foliar spray and orchid fertilizer with a lot of minor nutrients and minerals. So I'll just spray that around, and the pitcher will collect whatever it can from there. And there's a lot of insects and stuff that find their way in the greenhouse.
I guess that makes sense for foliar spraying for these plants.
Yes, yeah, it just drips down inside the pitcher, and there's so many pores in there that they absorb the nutrients fine.
Yeah, I mean, not all plants are great for foliar feeding, but I think like telangias, you'd mentioned orchids, you know, these actually definitely make sense. And so is it a specialized foliar spray with some specific micro and macronutrients just for Nepenthes or carnivorous plants, or is it just like kind of an orchid one that?
So there's a lot of different varieties that people use, especially they like getting into the seaweed fertilizer. I just try to stick to whatever is bare and minimal, and anything with urea is usually not good because the soil and the plant can't really break it down. So I try to stick to, you know, natural type stuff.
Eso es muy cierto. Muchas personas piensan que se puede fertilizar con compuestos inorgánicos el tema de las Nepenthes o las plantas carnívoras en general, ¿ok? Y me estoy refiriendo puntualmente al hecho de meterle, pues, no sé, urea, como menciona, o algún fertilizante sintético. Las plantas, pues, de por sí, o esta adaptación está realizado o está en función, pues, a algo externo, más no a través del suelo. El suelo tiene su proceso, tiene sus maneras. Aquí nos menciona una opción muy válida, que puede ser el tema de las orquídeas, el fertilizante para orquídeas, pero hay que manejarlo con cuidado. Eso sí se los digo con experiencia.
And just really minimal nutrients with orchid fertilizers.
Great tips. And then this one right here is something that you had mentioned before as well, and it's huge.
This is my most favorite hybrid ever. It gets one of the largest pitchers out of any of the plants. Mine still, I would consider a baby. It's lowii cross truncata giant, and it was created by my friends in Australia. And the color, the size, the interior is amazing. It has these giant lid bristles that it gets from lowii. Lowii hybrids are actually probably some of my most favorite plants. They just produce this really deep red, wide interior.
I just love the interior because it looks like it's seriously pixelated.
I believe that some of them resemble rotting flesh in a way.
Oh, that really makes sense, actually.
Yeah. Or the coloration alone just attracts the certain type of insects that they feed upon.
And now this one's actually quite large too. You said this one's quickly gaining on that one over there, and he's kind of hiding off in the midst over there.
Yeah, he doesn't want to overshadow his friend. This is Truncata cross Aphipiata, and Aphipiata and lowii are both very similar species, but the Truncata is what really gives the plant size.
¿No? Es como la inmensa variedad de híbridos que uno puede generar con 2, 3, 4 plantitas. Es impresionante, ojo, eso es impresionante la cantidad de híbridos que tú puedes lograr dentro de todo este mundo, ¿no? Así que bacán. Es chévere eso.
Horde Truncata hybrids, because everything that you cross with it is just like a larger version of the male parent.
And, you know, a lot of these are truly red leaf exotics. They're very exotic, but there are some that are from kind of our native home state of like Pennsylvania and around here that grow in bogs. And you want to talk about these pitcher plants?
Sure. This is Sarracenia purpurea. It's a native pitcher plant, or a North American pitcher plant. And these are awesome because they have these really fine hairs that all face down. So once a bug is on there, it can't really go up. It has no choice but to go to its death pretty much. And these don't produce digestive enzymes. They rely on mosquito larvae to break down anything that gets in there and then further absorb those fine nutrients once it's broken down.
That's fascinating because, you know, I just had seen like a little mosquito larva just kind of, you know, swimming pretty nonchalantly, like in this one right over here. Yeah. So,
unfortunately, people are usually disappointed that that's one of the only bugs they don't eat. They actually support them.
Well, it just goes to show you again, you know, kind of removing mosquitoes from you know, kind of the ecosystem could eventually cause some damage that we just wouldn't even think of if you, especially if you didn't have your head in Nepenthes all day.
Everything has purpose, everything.
Now let's talk about these like really cool like peristomes, which is kind of this like little I don't know if it's like at the neck or the rim part.
Call them the lip.
The lip, the
Yeah,
lip
the
part.
lip of the
Yeah.
plant. Again, I just think it's like the show they put on for the insects. I mean, this is Nepenthes
Exacto.
veitchii. It's very wide
Esa es la adaptación
and
que tienen
flared,
estas
and that's what
plantas.
it's noted for. But probably, if anything, a display for the plants. And the ribbing in the peristome, which you can see close up, again, helps things be directed toward their doom.
And what would this be considered, this part right here?
They call that the wing. And most believe that it's almost like a ladder for the insects to climb up.
And then you said your other favorite is over here, which I'd love to see.
Yes. This is one of my favorite plants. I mean, the size and the coloration is just spectacular on it. And it's a female, so it's gonna give me a lot of babies. But this is
Eso
truncata.
es, nuevamente, aquí el hecho de decir si es macho o hembra es, hay que tener suerte, inclusive. Yo por lo menos les puedo decir que tengo una máxima macho. Ok, hay otras 2, 3 plantas que hasta ahora no las he podido ver en flor. Espero poder traerlas aquí a Lima, todavía están allá en campo. Pero sí, es clásico que suele suceder que tienes que esperar que se crucen o tener mucha suerte, mucha suerte.
Veitchii maximus spectabilis. All those cross together, and you get this beautiful, large, striped, colorful pitcher.
Can you show me a little bit more of the dimorphism? Do you have ones that have like the really, you know, elegant
Dimorfismo sexual.
ones coming out of the tendrils and some of like the ones below, or?
I can show you lower pitchers. I don't believe I have anything that has both
Okay.
at present.
Yeah.
But you could. These are upper pitchers. They face out. They're a little more like a trumpet. They're smaller, and you can see the tendril here wraps around and secures the plant, as to where a lower pitcher is just a big bulky pitcher. They
Right.
don't really wrap or grow around anything. This is probably one of the holy grail of all Nepenthes. It's Nepenthes veitchii, and it's my company logo. That's what inspired it. And it gets these beautiful squat
Sí,
round
los
pitchers
colores y
with the
los bordes,
striped
es muy
peristome.
bonita.
And the thing that's really good about
Muy
this
bonita
one
la
is
planta.
usually with veitchii, the color isn't this intense or the pitchers aren't as round. And this one has it's a dream veitchii pretty much. I can actually show you one that's
Veitchii.
more typical looking, but this one's just really special. The color and the striping and that body, my favorite. Sundus are some of the more primitive, and I
Nuevamente, aquí la cantidad de variable que hay, ok. A ver, dame un segundo. Voy a poner esto en audio. Ya está. Es impresionante la cantidad de formas y de variables que puedes obtener tú en la Nepenthes y que puedes conseguir en general, ¿no? Que se puede conseguir y se puede obtener de estos cruces por aquí y por allá. Bueno, espero tener algún día algún híbrido, realizarlo sin ningún
believe
problema, ¿no?
David
Las
Attenborough's
dróceras también.
favorite. They were Darwin's as well. These have a ton of sticky dewdrops on the leaves, and when an insect gets on there, the leaf will start to curl and actually like envelop the insect and just suck everything out of it.
Oh my God, it's. I mean, this is the stuff that science fiction and some people's dreams are made out of, including your dreams.
The Little Shop of Horrors is real.
Look at these little guys right here. These are just adorable.
This is a species, Nepenthes glabrata. It's known as the painted pitcher plant. And it looks like you just put watercolor on
Chiquita,
it.
pequeña.
And it's so bizarro because you look at these little tendrils that kind of attach to these plants, and they're so delicate that you'd imagine, you know, you're putting all of this energy into this pitcher and you're hanging just on this little tiny bit of string.
Yep. This is a newer hybrid from my friends, Jeff and Andrea Mansell, and it actually came with these pitchers on it. But one of the parents in this is Morelliana, and she just gets these huge traps So that's what's coming through in here, the giant traps of her.
But I'd imagine if you have such a large trap that it's for something, maybe a larger creature, or am I just kind of like overreaching on that?
No, Merlion in the wild is known to catch small mammals, and a lot of the hybrids, especially these in cultivation, catch mice on the regular. My friend's nursery, when I went to visit, so many of their plants had mice in like all the pitchers, the larger traps. So they definitely
Claro.
attract more.
Es que eso es muy cierto. O sea, hay un lote de plantas que son de las plantas carnívoras como tales, pues que te permiten, pues, generar, pues, tal cantidad de híbridos grandes y todo lo demás, ¿no? Así que sí, sí, es interesante, es interesante.
More than just insects.
And how long do
Y
these
claro, o sea, aquí sí, por el tamaño sí te pueden comer ratones, cosas un poquito más grandes, ¿no? O sea, vertebrados inclusive, ¿no? Así que sí, y por el tamaño uno se da cuenta que no
These
es
last
difícil
for?
que caigan.
With good humidity and ideal conditions, the traps can last over a year. They can
Wow.
last very long.
I could imagine just like all the energy that the plant is putting in to actually make these, and in order to get that nitrogen source or all those micronutrients. I mean, because nitrogen is like one of those things that is so hard to get even in soil that has high nitrogen. So, the fact that they put in all this energy, I would hope that they hold on to it for quite some time.
They're dedicated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Espacio pequeñito, pero se puede lograr muchas cosas, ¿eh? Eso es muy cierto. Ay, la alertita.
I hope you enjoyed that episode on Nepenthes. I mean, there were some really interesting varieties. So if you enjoy these episodes, be sure to subscribe to the channel at Homestead Brooklyn and follow along on my Instagram at Homestead Brooklyn and on the blog at homesteadbrooklyn.com. Later!
Muy bonito, en realidad creo que... Oh. Ok. Creo que les ha parecido muy... Uy, miren esta. ¿Se reconocen esta de acá? Un Fragmipedium. Ya otro día lo vamos a ver, no se preocupen, no se preocupen. Vamos a verlo en otro día, pero sí, 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 interesante, interesante lo que nos ha mostrado el día de hoy Summer, ok, muy bonito en lo personal, lo considero una opción muy interesante para poder practicar, para poder ver, para quitarnos un poquito ese tabú que las personas que tienen un acceso, digamos, a un patio trasero, a un jardín, se puede realizar sin ningún problema y sin ningún inconveniente este tipo de actividades. Muy bien amigos, creo que hasta el día de hoy por lo menos ya hemos llegado casi a los 45 minutos en cuanto a la transmisión. Agradecerles que hayan estado aquí, okay, que me hayan acompañado esta casi 40 y pico minutos en la transmisión y nos estaríamos viendo en otro momento. Así que amigos, sin más que decir, nos vemos hasta otra oportunidad. Chau, chau.